Epic Boons are the ultimate rewards of high-level 5e D&D, and you only usually get one when you hit level 19. That means that whatever you choose has to earn its place above all of the other options available.
And with Heroes of Fearun, we've got 13 brand new Epic Boons entering the arena. Some of these feats are really cool. Some are pretty niche. And a few might be the most powerful Epic Boons we have ever seen printed in the game. They all have to compete with the existing boons in the player's handbook though, so which ones come out on top?
Now, these boons require a little bit of discussion, and we want to really dig into them and discuss how they stack up against the ones that already were printed or the other ones available on this list. So for that reason, we are going to be splitting this video into two. Today, we're taking a look at the first 7 of these new Epic Boons. We're going to talk about what they do at the table, how they compare to the established standouts, and whether any of them deserve to be your one and only pick at level 19.
And because you usually only get one Epic Boon unless your GM is being very generous and letting you take more because of quest rewards, we're going to be really harsh in assessing the Epic Boons. These are capstones. They need to do something massive or they need to supercharge your character's entire game plan, because if they don't, there is another boon out there that has set the bar really, really high. And so in the end of part 2, we'll kind of break down and have a bit more of a discussion, because one of the cool things that we can observe is that we recently finished a high-level campaign that played at 20th level. So we kind of have the perspective of 20th level play to bring to the table here.
So let's get into the new boons from Heroes of Fearun and see which ones rise to the top and which ones fall flat once you look past their flavor text. There's a lot to discuss, so let's get rolling.
Before we get into the discussion, this video is sponsored by Tabletop Table.
Are you the dungeon master or player who loves hosting game night but hates having to play cleanup crew right before or after the session?
You know who you are. You're that brave soul who is trying to fit your entire Dwarven Forge setup, all the character sheets, all the dice, and this massive elaborate setup onto your basic dining room table.
It's a nightmare. Your beautiful module gets soaked by a rogue soda spill. Someone nudges the minis and now the whole encounter is ruined.
And where are you supposed to put all your cards and dice when every single square inch of your table is claimed? Of course, what happens when you don't finish the combat encounter and have to pack up that elaborate setup so that you can have the family over for dinner the next night? So that's why we really love Tabletop Table. And here's why. Setup done. Done. Now pick up, put away when you're done at the end of the night. This is a patented portable gaming space that just goes right on top of your existing table. And if you like using miniatures and terrain or battle maps and grids like we do, and you have all those problems of play space, I just put up the whole setup and here it is.
There's still room underneath which you can actually use if your players need space to place their player character sheets, their dice, their minis, whatever they need. It actually creates more space at the table.
So you can go for the durable portable hexlight, which we've got right here, or the heirloom grade relic, which is crafted from solid walnut and super beautiful. The Tabletop Table will elevate your play. So if your encounter map outgrows this, Tabletop Table extenders give you 75% more space instantly. They snap on with strong magnets and preserve the full magnetic rail system, so everything works exactly the same, just bigger. You can add multiple extended tables to create huge setups as well if you're doing a sprawling dungeon. And they've even got their own carry cases too.
And they're in stock right now and shipping. It's no longer a Kickstarter pre-order, and they're running a sale now. So head over to tabletoptable.com/dudes to get your tabletop table right away before the sale ends.
Thanks to Tabletop Table for sponsoring this video and sending us these really useful things. We've been using these at our tables as well, and I just really love it for being able to build lots of setups and just take them out like this.
So thank you, Tabletop Table, and now let's keep talking about the Epic Boons.
All right, kicking things off with Boon of Bloodshed, gnarly name. Gives us a +1 increase to any ability score, and we get advantage on our next attack roll when we see a creature drop to 0 hit points. And then we also get to deal extra damage equal to our proficiency bonus, which is probably going to be +6 at this level, once per turn when you make an attack roll bloodied.
First, let's talk about the advantage. This feat is likely giving you advantage on an attack pretty often once foes start dying. Since you only have to see them go down, you don't actually have to land the killing blow yourself. The challenge here is that the damage boost only works while you're bloodied, which, if you're unfamiliar, bloodied means that you are below half of your total hit points. So you're forced into a weakened state just to unlock the benefit of this boon. And that's a hard request. Now, yes, at this level of play, you likely will be hit often and might spend time bloodied regardless. So it is part of the game and it will come up. But really the goal is to avoid being bloodied.
Yeah, being bloodied at level 19 is a bit of a red alert mode. It does put you in a vulnerable position, and all you're getting out of being there is +6 damage once per turn, not per attack. Like, if this did work on every attack, it would be 24 extra damage for fighters, and then we would be having a different conversation.
Yes.
But it's once per turn.
And honestly, that kind of undercuts the fantasy. When we first read this, it sounded like a minion munching engine. Plow through the minions, getting advantage, and you keep going one enemy to the other. But in practice, how often is it actually impactful, and how often are we bloodied? Rogues might really enjoy constant advantage for their sneak attacks, but I can tell you rogues hate being bloodied.
And it also varies based on the number of enemies that you have on the field. If you are mowing down those minions, you're going to see advantage a lot. But you're level 19, we're coming up on the final boss battle. What does that mean? Oh, you're fighting the single CR 30 Tarask. You're not going to see an enemy go down in that fight because there's only one enemy that you're fighting. You're fighting a solo boss. So the advantage part just turns off, right? And now we're just getting +6 damage at a time when the epic boss monster is going to zero you if you're bloodied.
This epic boon is not unusable. There are cases where it might feel good, but as your one epic boon choice, we're going to be saying this a lot, you get one.
Yeah.
Is this really going to be as powerful to the other options that have already been presented? And does it really change how we're going to play our character or impact the game in a major way? I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, see, I would rather just take the enemies out before I got bloodied. And that's where the rolling advantage would be cool. But again, you're going to have encounters where this epic boon isn't active or isn't contributing. And when we're only getting one epic boon, that's a bad thing. That's what we don't want to see. We don't want a situational epic boon. We want an epic boon that is coming into play every single encounter. So for me, this makes it C tier.
I agree. Boon of Bountiful Health gives you a +1 to any ability score, and it adds 5 extra temporary hit points whenever you gain any temporary hit points. And it also maximizes the value of every hit die you spend to heal.
All right, so we're talking about temporary hit points. So just so that everyone is clear, we don't get this in the comments. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Temporary hit points don't stack. Okay. This boon hinges on synergy. If you are already running a build that produces recurring temporary hit points, this suddenly becomes very appealing. Twilight Clerics handing out temporary hit points every round. Spellfire Sorcerer activating new subclass, activating with sorcery points, handing out temporary hit points. Or perhaps a Pact of the Fiend Warlock who is killing enemies and getting temporary hit points. Notably, this is affecting you receiving them. So unfortunately, this doesn't work if you're the Twilight Cleric giving the temporary hit points. This is only works when you're getting the temporary hit points. It would be way better. It would be
if you could give it to other people, but
yeah,
maybe too good though.
Yeah. But as long as there's an engine in your party that is giving out constant temporary hit points, it shines. And again, to come back to that temporary hit points don't stack thing, what we like to see with temporary hit points is even though they don't stack, the strategy around temporary hit points is the assumption that you're going to get a good pool of 10, 15, 20 temporary hit points, and then something in the next round is inevitably going to hit you, causing you to lose those temporary hit points. But it doesn't matter because you're going to gain more again next round, thus topping up your temporary hit points. So even though the temporary hit points aren't stacking, they're not building up, the fact that damage is always coming in and you're always regaining temporary hit points is kind of giving you this constantly refreshing shield of temporary hit points that keep you in the fight.
Temporary hit points are like a little damage sponge, and you can just imagine you're subtracting that from how much damage you're taking every round. And if you only take half of your temporary hit points in damage, if the amount that you gain is still greater than the amount you currently have, just replace them with the greater number. If you've got a constant source of temporary hit points, that extra +5 every time is going to be meaningful. It adds up fast over a long encounter.
Doesn't stack! Doesn't stack!
But it's going to make your tanky characters even harder to crack. Again, we're adding this like consistent damage sponge. We did a video a little while ago on our Warlock Barbarian build that relies on temporary HP for Armor of Agathis, and I would love this boon for that character.
Yeah, but if you don't have that synergy, I think the value is really nosediving, right? Like, if you're just getting 5 temporary hit points out of the one time that you used Inspiring Leader, like, it's not bad, but but like, if it's a short rest refresh of temporary hit points, this is becoming way less impactful. You really need to have something that is letting you reliably create temporary hit points every single round for this to be worthwhile, because then you're going to get, over the course of an entire combat encounter, like 15, 20, 30 temporary hit points are coming in because of this feat. And that's why the whole question about temporary hit points not stacking is actually the challenge of using this feat appropriately, right?
This is absolutely a epic boon that you're either building for it or you're going to skip it. If your class already pumps out temp HP regularly, this turns into a powerhouse defensive option. It is worth noting that in 2024 D&D, there are a lot of ways to dish out temporary hit points. Even still, if it doesn't come up often at your table, there's no reason to take this over the many objectively stronger epic boons.
Yeah, and again, I want to emphasize that you need a temporary hit point feature that is coming in every round. If you have a temporary hit point feature that just does once per short rest, it is not worth this feat. It needs to be something that's going to be happening in combat before the temporary hit points add up to enough for this feat to compete with the other defensive feats that are giving you heals and stuff, some of which we're going to talk about later. This ranking really depends on context. The floor and the ceiling are miles apart based on the build.
Yeah, I absolutely think that this is a B overall. You do need to build for it. And there are several build options that are going to work for this. S tier for those build options. C tier for everybody else.
And a trap if you're not using the, like...
It's D tier if you're getting a temporary HP like once per rest, then don't no.
Yeah. So next up is Boon of Communication. This gives us +1 to any mental stat, removes disadvantage when influencing hostile creatures, a rule that I often forget exists, and grants perfect understanding of any spoken, signed, or written language. And you also have a 120-foot telepathy.
This epic boon is a very nice little flavor package. You're basically a walking automatic translator with psychic communication skills. But again, you get one epic boon choice. You get one. At level 19, none of this is remotely compelling as your one epic boon choice. Remember, you're getting one. I like everything here. It's fun, flavorful. There are certain characters that like this is a little theme package. But at level 19, it's hard to justify this being the singular choice that I make.
This would be fine as a general feat.
Yeah.
Right? That you could take at level 4. Because honestly, like, there's general feats that give you telepathy. There are general feats that give you access to spells like comprehend languages or tongues. And my point here is that everything that this feat is offering you, yes, it's giving you all of this in one package, but like, there's spells, there's feats, there's magic items that you could have had at like level 3 that gave you this stuff. By tier 4, characters have telepathy. They have the tools they need to do these things. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Don't do it. Just no.
And okay, talking down hostile creatures without disadvantage sounds dramatic. And when it comes up, I know it's going to feel really cool in the moment, but in high-level play, Many of the hostile creatures that you are facing are things like dragons, liches, devils, archdevils, or monsters that probably aren't easily persuaded anyway, and your little charm spells and things like that are not really the go-to at this level of play anyway.
I just don't think that this feat has any actual mechanical impact that is going to be meaningful.
Compared to the other epic boons?
Yeah. It's like, I love telepathy. Don't get me wrong. I love telepathy.
Yeah.
I just don't love spending a epic boon feat to get it when the telepathic feat exists. And yes, is it a more limited form of telepathy? But like, I would rather have taken that at level 4 and gotten the telepathy for like 90% of the campaign than just now finally at level 19 getting telepathy. This feat is garbage.
There might be a version of a campaign where this matters.
Really?
I don't know, like a full-on diplomacy, planar intrigue. But even then...
Even like, there's other feats that boost your skills and stuff like that I think are going to have a bigger impact in like nailing those roles.
Even if everything on this list speaks to my character design, character build, and the campaign I'm in, would I rather have that or rather have like resistance to every damage type or, doing a boatload of extra...
No. Like, it's not even worth humoring this feat. Don't take it.
Okay, it's D tier. Sorry. It's flavorful, but it's irrelevant. All right, we're moving on to the Boon of Desperate Resilience, which gives you a +1 to Strength or Constitution, and while you're bloodied, you gain resistance to every damage type except Force.
Wait, like as a reaction or once per day or for one round?
Nope.
Just always?
Just always.
Always? Well, okay.
If you're below half health, you're taking half damage.
Okay, so this is one of the strongest effects in this entire, like, epic boon lineup. Resistance to all damage but Force is pretty wild. Yes, it has to trigger when you're on your back half of your hit points when you're bloodied, but that's kind of when you really want it.
Yeah, it's interesting because we argued before about how relying on being bloodied was not ideal. That's not what you're aiming for in the game. But the previous option was being bloodied for a small boost to damage. And I did state that being bloodied was something that would happen to you regardless. It is part of the game. You will get bloodied. With this boon, once you hit the halfway mark of your hit points, you basically double your remaining hit points. Tanks are going to love this. Anyone on the front lines is going to love this. I think anybody's going to love this, actually, and it requires no action, no tracking, no setup. You could simply read this as increase your maximum HP by 25%.
So there is a weird thing. You have to be bloodied first for the resistance to activate. So if you are like 2 hit points over bloodied and get slammed for 100 points of damage... That's
a problem.
Yeah. I could also see barbarian players being like, I don't need this, I already have rage. But I'm just going to remind you, at high level play, like, look at the monster manual. Rage is just bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage unless you are a bear wildheart, which, yeah, maybe you are. But bosses have stopped doing mundane weapon damage, and they are throwing down psychic, radiant, necrotic, fire, thunder, and unfortunately often Force as well, which is kind of a thing where it's like
it's your Achilles heel.
It is, and it is more common now at this level, but I still think it's good, and I still think it's worth considering for non-Wildheart barbarians.
I mean, once you're fighting dragons, archmages, demon lords, their hits are not slashing and piercing anymore. Even a raging barbarian can get flattened by elemental or psychic damage. This boon fills the exact gap that rage leaves open, so it's completely still relevant.
Yeah, and despite that one case that I talked about like being 2 hit points above bloodied and then getting slammed for 100 damage, which sucks, this just turns on when you need it. There's no resource cost, there's no timing window, there's no reaction. It's just on. I guess I have one other caveat to say, and this is me basically explaining why this is not S tier. At high levels, damage is not the worst thing that can happen to your character, and it is definitely not the worst thing that can happen to your barbarian. And this doesn't offer you any protection against all the really scary stuff that can happen to you, which might mean that this feat gets outcompeted by something else.
Yeah, if you're a barbarian who is taking half damage from everything because they're bloodied and have this epic boon suddenly gets mind controlled and now you have to fight them while they attack you, then you're probably out of luck. So I guess try not to get mind controlled. But at the end of the day, it's probably the simplest boon in the book, but also one of the most effective.
Yeah.
You get it, it's on, makes you harder to kill.
We're going to look at a bunch of other boons and talk about a bunch of other boons that give you access to healing and temporary hit points and stuff like that. And the interesting thing here, I think, is going to come down to your strategy, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, if your DM is a super aggro DM and you're getting your butt kicked a lot and getting bloodied a lot, this feat really is going to, the amount of like effective hit points that this feat is bringing to the table is potentially really good. On the flip side, there are some other feats that also offer this kind of healing, or like these extra hit point things that are affecting the top end, like when you're at full health, like increasing your hit points more so, or giving you more healing that you can use to keep yourself topped up. So this is acting on the backside of your hit points, whereas other epic boons might be acting on the front end. Your DM's really going to take the gloves off and like bare knuckle punch you in the jaw. You're going to be going down a lot at these high levels of play, and so I think it's an A.
I think it's an A as well.
Boon of Exquisite Radiance gives you a +1 to any ability score and prevents creatures you kill from turning into undead. Could be niche interesting. Once per long rest, when you deal radiant damage, you can maximize every damage die in that roll.
Cool. I love the Nova radiant damage.
Great
That's
on
great.
Sunbeam.
Yeah. Maximize your radiant damage. It sounds fun. It sounds incredible. But as always, you spot the killer here in the text. Once per long rest. That phrasing seems to be the bane of our existence. At level 19, getting a single Nova moment per day isn't actually that impressive. There are some great radiant spells out there, and this could be a nice amount of damage. But is once really enough to justify your epic boon choice?
I just don't think so. Like, I think that even if you use this on some of the best radiant damage dealing spells, the AoEs, I think it's going to like turn like a sunbeam or a sunburst up to like, it actually, like, the max damage on those spells is actually still going to fall short of the average damage of like Meteor Swarm. Right? We're not blowing up an entire encounter even with some of the best radiant damage dealing spells in the game, right? It's a good thing. Like, I could like, and even like a paladin smiting, right? Like, this isn't transforming like a paladin smite into something that is like isn't already crazy.
Yeah,
right?
like it's going to be flashy, it's going to be cool at the table. It's going to be a big show. If you are the paladin and you crit the demon lord and you decide that it's going to do maximum damage possible, like, yeah, you're going to feel like a rock star. But
Radiant's a great damage type. The radiant damage dealing spells are great, but like maximizing them once per day is not worth spending a feat on.
yeah, it doesn't really justify choosing this over several stronger boons that we've looked at. You can save this for that big radiant spell on the epic final boss and hit them for everything you have, but then your epic boon is spent, and you only got that one moment out of it until you get a good night's sleep in.
If you use this ability on Sunburst,
yeah,
which is a massive AoE radiant damage, that does 12d6 points of damage. It's a 7th level spell slot. Maximizing 12d6 damage is 72 damage. That is half of Meteor Swarm. So it's not even that impressive compared to what other things that you can do damage-wise at this level are.
True, because you're on 19th level. You have 9th level spell slots. And
yeah,
you only have one 9th level spell slot, but you also only have one 7th level spell slot. I also want to mention the other part of this, the creatures you kill can't become undead. There are certain places where this might be impactful, but it's pretty niche.
It's also one of those weird things where, like, if you have this feature and your DM has built an encounter around reanimating undead, you just kind of, like, it just kind of means that now your DM can't do that type of encounter against you, which it's a classic archetype, but it just kind of eliminates that as a type of encounter that's going to occur now that you have this.
I think, unfortunately, I might even give. I'm leaning towards D tier. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a very flashy boon. It's going to look really cool when people Nova with the radiant damage. But compared to the things that we get to, like, there are other boons that are always active or activate constantly, and through a day of playing D&D are going to have a much bigger impact.
If it was once per short rest, I think we could start to find something to do with it.
Yeah, maybe.
Right? And
even then, it might be a B.
And I'm sure someone's going to be like, well, what about this example of like doing this crazy? I mean, great. Like but like
the frequency.
It's
the frequency issue.
It is. And the fact that at 19th level, like, again, we're coming right back around to Meteor Swarm was 140 damage on average without us needing to spend our Epic Boon feat.
And yes, those are different classes that are having access to those spells. And
it is, but I think that the comparison isn't invalid here because we're questioning like where our resources are coming from to do this.
Yeah. Moving on to the Boon of Fluid Forms, which gives you a +1 to Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma, and once per long rest, you can take a magic action to shapeshift into any beast, humanoid, or monstrosity of CR 10 or lower. You gain temporary hit points equal to that creature's full HP +20, and the form lasts for 1 full hour. This isn't casting a spell. You're not concentrating on anything. You've just transformed and gained their full hit points as temporary HP. You're going to keep your mental ability scores.
What?
You're going to keep your proficiencies.
What?
Your ability to communicate.
What?
And hey, you get to keep your spell casting or pact magic.
What?
You can transform into a creature. A T-Rex with a little wizard hat on. Yeah, you're just adding a stat block on top of your actual build as a spellcaster.
I just feel like I live that like Mark McMahon meme. Right? Like
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna be a spellcasting T-Rex or a Hydra with a spell list or a Frogamoth in a wizard hat for an hour?
Yeah. Yeah, you keep your spellcasting. To me, that's when the dial turns up to 11. Like, it was already at like a 9 or 10, and then you read that sentence and it turns up. Yeah, and just for the record, any creature, I'm playing a wizard, and any creature I turn into, the wizard hat stays on.
Yeah, but you can also turn into other humanoids.
Yeah, okay, the option to transform into humanoids makes this even more ridiculous. I have some questions. There are a lot of CR10 humanoids.
Like generic stat blocks that have spell casting.
Yeah, there's generic humanoid stat blocks that have caster kits. You can get access to mass suggestion, telekinesis, plane shift, fireball.
Does that work? Like, can you do that with this feat?
Yeah, if I shapeshift into one of those humanoid creatures, do I get to keep my spell list but also gain access to like their once per day or twice per day spells?
Yeah.
I also have questions about how this interacts in campaigns with specific NPCs and notable characters. Can I just turn into the villain and gain their whole stat block?
I mean, if you're level 19 and your villain is CR10,
well, true. But maybe, like, I don't know, can I turn into, like, one of the members of, like, the Royal Guard, or can I turn into, like, the henchmen of the...
Yeah, like, can you turn into a specific individual?
Yeah.
I mean, and let's just say flat out, like, there are CR10 monsters with like 180, 200, sometimes even 250 hit points.
Yeah.
So if we're just evaluating this feat alone on like how many temporary hit points did you just get, it's ridiculous. Like it blows everything out of the water in terms of the amount of like ablative hit points that it's putting onto your character.
Yeah. And it's interesting, we normally hate seeing the once per long rest sentence at this level. Usually means that the ability is not going to be worth it because the frequency is way down, but this is an example of the exception because the duration is an hour, it's really long, and the transformation is so powerful that 1 use per day is completely reasonable.
This is like getting another 9th level spell slot. Like,
this is almost better than a 9th level spell slot.
Yeah.
Concentration free.
I mean, you can't turn into a CR20 dragon with it,
True.
right?
But I'm turning into a bunch of magical murder beast spellcaster hybrids wearing a wizard hat. That's worth my daily activation.
Yeah. This, like, it's just really game changing, and it's really flexible. Like, there's so many ways that this could be crazy. Like, just alone the fact that you are a Froghemoth in a wizard hat, right? I think that alone is S tier. And like,
Third.
yeah, yeah. This is S tier.
It's S tier. I want to be a Froghemoth in a wizard
I think
hat.
this is one of the few like S tier once per day abilities, but it's
so good.
It just feels so crazy game changing to me.
Like, it's S tier because, like,
there's so
who
many
doesn't want to do this?
Like I think what's weird about this feat is that there are so many checks and balances that you would normally expect the Wizards devs to put on a feat like this that would just put it into the trash bin, right? Like, if you didn't get to keep your spell casting, we would not be having the same conversation.
I mean, we still might be, because 250 temporary hit points, concentration free.
It's a lot, but then the trade-off of turning into a CR10 creature when you're a level 20 character is a bit of a...
True. It is worth noting that you might end up weaker. You likely will end up weaker.
Well, I mean, this is a feat for spellcasters.
Yeah.
I don't think that as a barbarian would you, because you still are actually losing other class features. Like, if you're a barbarian with this, and I think you have to be a spellcaster to get this anyways, right? Like, I think this is in consideration for spellcasters. I don't think like marshals are really considering this, but
True.
They might. It's really good.
But yeah, if you're in a swamp and you need to throw down, then turn into a Froghemoth.
That's a tough act to follow.
That was S tier, 100%.
Yeah. There's no way there's going to be a feat better than that. No. Right? Right? Well, Boon of Fortune's Favor gives you a +1 to any ability score. And once per turn, when you fail a saving throw, you can re-roll it. You must use the new result.
Comes back, though, at the start of your next turn.
Yeah, it's once per turn.
So this is one of those deceptively simple boons that ends up being unbelievably strong. At high levels, it's failed saving throws that end characters. Dominate spells, disintegrate, feeble mind, flesh to stone. This boon gives you a second chance against any of them every single round.
So, we got a tough time because we gave one of the best defensive feats in the game a B. So this is our redemption arc here. Mage Slayer is a feat that I think of when I read this. Mage Slayer gives us a once per short rest automatic save on a mental, right? This feat's also really comparable to Indomitable, which is a reroll on a failed save. We add our fighter level to the reroll, but fighters only get to do that up to like 3 times per day. This is every single round used on a failed saving throw.
Yeah, it's not an auto pass, and it doesn't add bonuses like Indomitables. But the frequency that we have here, every single round.
And there's no action cost. It's not like you're spending a reaction or a bonus action. It's not like you had to do anything in before.
An extra saving throw reroll every round is actually pretty wild. If you're under a dangerous effect, you can roll to shake off every turn. This is doubling your chances every turn of getting out of it.
So yeah, if you get like hold personed, which does give you a save every round, and even though you re-rolled the initial save and failed it, it's like
the next turn you still get those. There's so many times in the game where it's like, oh, my turn, nope, still stuck. But doubling up the chances of getting out is just like a major bonus.
Is a big deal.
Most turns you're only going to be making about 1 save. Yes, you can make more, but this doesn't trigger when you succeed, only if you fail. And some of the nastiest effects in the game are going to be saving throws at tier 4 play.
Yeah, like in tier 4, it is possible for characters to have to be making multiple saving throws per turn, right? Because a lot of enemies are moving on to saving throw effects against you, not just attack rolls, right? But this is only triggering on a failed save. And so you don't have to use it until you actually fail a save, which matters, right? So if you are shrugging off things and you already have like really impressive saving throws, like this is really good on a paladin because it's just closing that gap.
This is good on this is the thing. It's good on anybody. Any single character in the game can take this and feel happy about it.
I think it's S tier for any character, and I think that this feat now is the new default. Like, when we measure other epic boons, especially other defensive-oriented epic boons, we have to ask the question, is this better than getting to basically reroll every saving throw I make? And in most cases, the answer is no. Because, and yeah, and I do want to say, like, the reservations that we might have had with something like Mage Slayer being only once per rest are just blown out of the water here, because this is once per round.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the frequency is so overwhelming that you can't ignore it.
Yeah.
Right? If this feat was once per rest, I would be like, okay, it's really good. It's like A, B plus, but it's not. It's like
every round.
Yeah.
S.
Yeah. Best feat in the book.
Yeah, okay, so we just had two of the greatest feats back to back. Let's see if we keep the train rolling. Can we get another S tier?
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Boon of Poison Mastery. I'm not hopeful. Boon of Poison Mastery gives you a +1 to any ability score. We do like that.
Yep.
Total immunity to poison damage and the poison condition. And once per turn, you can maximize the poison damage dice from any attack, spell, or feature you use. Already, I will say, this is once per turn, unlike the Radiant one that we were looking at that is once per rest, long rest.
So there's two sides to this. The once per turn is really worth pausing on. Because, yeah, we just looked at the Radiant Epic Boon, which did the same thing once per day.
Yeah.
And then we just had another feat that was something that we could use once per turn. So I'm kind of like, what? This looks really strong. You can fire it off every round with no limit. And I actually do want to say that poison damage is really, really common. And the poison condition is, like, it is one of the most common damage types that gets fired at players. So as a defensive feat, outright immunity to that and the poison condition is actually really good.
I will say, Radiant is a much better damage type than poison. This is where the problem comes in. That Radiant boon, being once per day, shows you how much the designers value Radiant damage at high levels, because Radiant applies to almost everything. You can kill almost any creature with Radiant except angels. It's universally strong.
Yeah.
Poison, not so much.
Yeah, it's because poison is the most immune damage type in the game, right?
Yeah.
The monster manual is just filled with constructs, undead, demons, devils, oozes, elementals, like, you name it. Like, you can barely turn over a page in the monster manual without finding a monster that is immune to poison damage or the poison condition. And weirdly enough, a lot of poison damage dealing effects don't deal so much more damage to compensate for that.
Yeah.
And by high levels, we actually have a dearth of very high level spells and effects that are letting us maximize the poison damage. So it actually has that same issue. So what we would ideally want here is some way of doing at will poison damage every single round that was a good amount of poison damage. But we actually don't have a lot of synergistic things to do that with. Like the ceiling of maximized poison damage isn't so impressive that being able to maximize that poison damage every round is, like, better than other baseline things that other damage types are doing at this level.
Yeah, even though maximizing your poison dice every round sounds potent on paper, it's a cool ability, wrong damage type in a lot of cases. Now, if you build around poison, such as using our apothecary class, which does like poison damage, you are constantly gambling on whether your enemies even care. I will admit, though, if you're in a campaign that is all humans and cults, but even then at 19th level, you're probably fighting the demon lords that the cult was summoning, not the cultists. So it's going to be tough, because at this level of play, it's likely not humanoids anymore. But if you are in a campaign with a lot of humanoids, Sure, go to town. Like we mentioned, Apothecary could be poison-based. Assassin, maybe you're poison-based. You really do have to build around poison, which isn't the optimal build style anyway. If it's on brand, though, you're going to squeeze value out of this. But compared to what other epic boons are offering, you can get resistances, legendary tier defenses, world-shattering power, turning into a froggy myth in a wizard hat. I don't think maximizing your poison damage is keeping up.
There might be a build out there. If this worked with a better damage type, this could be A tier. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, where is the build for this, and what does it look like, and how impactful is that actually going to be? And then it still has to deal with the fact that poison damage is so often just flat out immune. But the counterpoint of the immunity to poison yourself is kind of valuable enough for me that, like, see?
I think it's C tier. It's not a throwaway. There are probably 1 or 2 builds out there that this benefits in.
Yeah.
It's just going to be really niche, really dependent.
And really uphill.
And
because,
it's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
But it could exist.
All right. So I think that we saw some of the highs and lows of the book. And of the 7 that we looked at today, I feel like the Boon of Fluid Form and the Boon of Fortune's Favor, both the FF...
Falling Fire.
Yeah, Falling Fire. Kind of blew my mind.
Every other feat that we look at, every other epic boon that we look at in part 2 will need to be compared to those 2. It kind of sucks that we were like on this beautiful ascension, and then we got the poison feat right at the end. But
yeah,
it is what it is. I think that those 2 have set a bar that we now need to. So the main question is now always going to be, would I pick this epic boon over one of those 2?
Yeah, and my recommendation would be for most players out there now, based on this alone, the Boon of Fortune's Favor is so strong, so reliable, so it hits so many things that can happen to your character, and has such a reliable defensive boost that basically my recommendation kind of comes down to, if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have a very specific thing in mind for your epic boon that's going to synergize with everything else your character is doing, you should probably take that feat. Which is going to, it's the new Polearm Master, Great Weapon Master.
If you're playing at 19th level.
Yeah, right.
Now, if you're anything like me, my rebuttal, although I agree with everything Monty said, is that if you can't get the image of a Froghemoth in a wizard hat whipping people around out of your head, then pick that one, because I might be talking about this one for years to come. But they're both so fun, and we will carry on in episode 2, and we are going to have a bit of a discussion at the end on what we think of all of them together. But regarding these first 7, do you think anything is better than those 2? If you do, I'd love to hear how and why. But what are your thoughts on these epic boons?
Yeah, I think they're like the auto picks, and it's agonizing that I can only choose one, but I just feel like with most characters...
As a DM, I'll let you pick both.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
so
no
I can
problem.
be a frog that's re-rolling all of my saving throws?
Yep, I can't do anything. Just have fun breaking D&D.
Yeah.
Tell us about your thoughts on all of these epic boons in the comments below.
The videos that we make on our channel are made possible thanks to the incredible generosity of our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the work that we do here and want to chat with us about your thoughts on these feats, you can join our Patreon-only Discord server. The links are in the description below, and there's plenty more amazing benefits for joining our Patreon.
And if you want to watch us not use epic boons and die a whole bunch at the table because we did not have the ability to reroll all of our saving throws, you can check out our actual play, which is now completed in the Worlds of Drakkenheim. All of the episodes are available right up here.
And we've got plenty more tier ranking content for the 2024 D&D rules right up over here.
Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and ring that bell so that you never miss an episode.
Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time
in the dungeon.